bit from the start of March being in Henderson, North Carolina with the One Conference to I was in a men's retreat in the middle of the month, and then we were in Boston just this past week, but that's not why we're here today. Welcome to all of you who are coming on board. Today we are going to be doing a live coffee break. So get ready. It's coffee break time, yes. So if you have questions as we're going through this, if you don't know what a coffee break is, I am going to suggest that you pick one up right now. Go to oneextraordinarymarriage.com/coffee break. Grab it. It's how many pages? It's two pages. But I'm telling you, these 2 pages will make each and every week so much smoother for you guys. It's I would say it's our marriage meeting.
Yeah, it's really,
what would you call it?
And I want to say from the get-go,
hello.
Don't call this a date with your spouse. Don't call it your coffee date. No. Like if you want to go have a coffee date, do a separate coffee date. Don't do your coffee break as your coffee date. Mm-hmm. And here's why. Because we're going to be talking about a lot of logistics and a lot of, feedback and things like that. And so it really, you want to separate your dates and your romance from taking care of business. Yeah. And so
this is not a date night. This is a coffee break. This is part of the system that makes our marriage work. So we're on the same page and we're running properly. It's almost like a car, right? If one of the spark plugs is out, it's going to feel like it's just not running right. When they're all in, they're all working, we're going. So real quick though, as you guys start jumping on here, how many of you, if you could let us know, how many of you have done a coffee break at least once? You've attempted doing a coffee break. If you could just say yes, give us a thumbs up, sort of gives us an idea where you guys are, which really helps. And we're going to watch your questions, but you're also going to watch Elise and I do one for it's going to be for next week where we're doing
a live one. This is going to be real time and what's going on. We've got a couple
folks saying
yay for the thumbs up. Nope.
Okay. Cool. You'll learn and see what's going on here.
So these are coming. And real quick, it is a 2-page. There's, I forget exactly how many points on here, like 18 or 19, I think. Just know we're not going to do the entire thing today. Partly in the interest of time, partly because we want you guys to actually do this yourselves, right? And if you just see Tony and Lisa, you might be like, well, I don't have to do it because I've seen Tony and Lisa do it. The first thing that really matters about the coffee break is being intentional about the day and time, right? Just like we talk about scheduling sex, just like we talk about getting date nights on the calendar, the coffee break is something else to enhance your marriage. It's an investment in your relationship. And it's one of those things where, whether you're part of a company that has like a weekly meeting, whether you're part of the PTA that has regular meetings, whether you're part of a church serving volunteer team that has regular meetings, that regular check-in with the group, with the tribe that you're a part of matters because it keeps everybody on task. It keeps, things from festering too long. There's a lot to the why behind it. And we don't want you to think, oh, this is just like another conversation that I have to have with my spouse. No, this is another conversation that you get to have with your spouse to really foster the intimacy, to make sure that you've got regular feedback, like a feedback loop created in your relationship so that things don't just turn into that giant elephant in the room that the two of you are having to deal with. And I do want to say, I know a lot of you saw on our Instagram story yesterday about, if you've got a question for it, we're going to answer them live. I'm not sure because we've never had this happen before, but all of the questions that got submitted on the story disappeared.
Over there.
I've never seen it happen. We ask you guys questions all the time. They're gone.
There was one question. There were a couple of questions that I do remember reading. One of them is, do you have to do it or do you have to go to a coffee shop or can you do it at home?
Great question.
And it is a valid and a great question. You can do it either place. The thing is you need to be intentional and take action. For us, doing it at home sometimes gets it would just be easier just to go sit on the couch.
And do nothing, not do a coffee break.
Right. So for us, we like going to a coffee shop and doing it. It gets us out of the home and it gets us focused just on this piece. So
question came in, how do you keep up with the coffee breaks when they're very emotionally draining? Excellent question.
Great question.
And part of that is even looking, and we put this at on the first page of the coffee break, and you can kind of, that's what it's going to look like when you print it down. But one of the things that we put on here on purpose is, first of all, avoid words like never and always. That helps to keep the emotional drain a little bit easier, because immediately, and we've done shows on this, whenever you or your spouse hears the word never or always, you're immediately, I see this happen all the time in coaching, you're immediately thinking of the exception to that, and then you stop listening.
Yeah.
Because you've checked out, because you're like, oh yeah, that's not true. The other aspect of this is keeping that positive ratio. We have on here a 3-to-1 positive ratio. Speak words of encouragement to one another and say 3 good things to every tough thing you share. Right? So it's not like the coffee break is not designed to be a dump session.
Nope.
Like,
this is like, we got to get this stuff done on what's happening. It's almost like, and I see your response. I get defensive. Well, why are you getting defensive? You got to check yourself. I got defensive last week while we were on vacation on a couple of things, and Elisa had to put me in check. And I had to really check my heart and why I was getting defensive every single time we go on vacation. So
I was just going to say, that may also be a communication challenge within the marriage, because if the way the information is being presented to you causes you to go on the defensive, one, it may mean, like Tony said, you got to check yourself. The other part may be, okay, is it how the information is being presented that causes me to react? And so those are 2 different things. But
understanding that, though, is key.
Sure.
It's key in having an understanding. Oh, man.
What do you mean?
No, the feelings chart. I love the feelings chart. Pick it up. We mentioned it last week on last week's show, but just Google this, because what is ending up happening, I've realized even for myself when I'm talking to Elisa or other folks, is that I only have so many words that I'm using to express my feelings or my emotions, and they're not the correct ones. Sad, mad, angry, upset. It's not enough. Like, I need to get even deeper, and I need to get granular with that. So,
see if I can get the angle. Yeah. You can kind of see, this is just, I Googled.
Yeah, that's a harsh angle.
There we go. But you can see all the different faces. This is all I just Googled feelings charts.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of different ones there. You can
print it and have it by your bedside, or when you're doing a coffee break or whenever you're around. It is key. Key. All right, let's get into this though.
Sure.
And we're gonna see your questions coming, and we'll get to them. But make sure, like, we're also doing some scheduling here. A lot of this for Elisa and I is a scheduling. We're trying to figure out where we're at with the kids, with us, how we're gonna get things into play. So a lot of this isn't for us. It's not emotionally charged. This is where we're at. This is what we're doing.
I was just gonna say, the first half is a lot of logistics.
Yes.
Like Tony said, it's the business, it's the scheduling, it's what do we need to do. The second part is where it can become a little bit more emotionally draining, because that's more of where the feedback loop is. Yep. And what I want to say is, you can also, any, this is like an always type of statement, any tool that we've put out here at One Extraordinary Marriage, you can actually customize it to fit your marriage. You don't have to do, there's 19 questions, because we didn't number the questions. I think there's 19 on here. You don't have to do all of them, right? If you get to a point where you're like, oh, okay, you know what? Like, we're going to pick, these things don't apply to us. We're going to just pick, just going to do this section, or we're going to do, don't become avoiders. Mm-hmm. Okay, let me be real clear. Don't become avoiders, but if something doesn't pertain to your marriage, cross it out.
It's okay.
Tony and Lisa are not going to be upset at you. Right? It's okay.
Let's go. Yep. And we have more questions coming in. We want to get through some of this. We'll answer some more questions for you guys, and then we'll get going. So let's start it off.
So weekly, we're talking to each other about trips.
I'm a calendar guy, so I bust out my calendar.
Calendar guy.
I am. So I bust it out.
Feel sorry for me, because I would love for us to have just one shared calendar.
All right, let's go.
So what's coming up trip wise? Do you have anything that is not also on my calendar?
For trips.
For trips.
coming up next week. This month is actually pretty.
We're in town.
We're in town a lot.
We actually
this
have
month,
people coming to visit.
Yeah.
Some of the one family is coming to visit.
Yeah. So this week is actually pretty good, and moving even throughout April is not a heavy travel month for me. And I don't think it is for you, is it?
No, our next trip is we're going to the
marriage retreat.
C3 San Diego marriage retreat, and that's
in May.
And so
May 11th.
9, 10, and 11.
9, 10, okay.
9, 10, 11. You got it on your calendar.
And then we have, after that, just looking a little bit forward, because we're dealing with some trips for pleasure as well. June 20th is going to be your 45th birthday, and we are going to go to...
We're going back where it all began.
We're going back to
Boulder. I need to make those tickets.
Yep, and so we're going to get to Boulder and go hang out there.
So that's what's coming up. But part of that is also talking through, and we won't go into all the details for us, but part of it's talking through, what's going to be your budget. Mm-hmm. And just as a side note, if you are planning those trips, it's a great idea to actually have the vacation planner, which is at oneextraordinarymarriage.com/vacation planner. And to have that while you're talking through trips, if you've got them coming up, especially if they're, within probably the next month, because that's going to talk you through all the different intimacies while you're going on vacation. And I can't tell you how many people rave about the fact that that tool alone is changing how they make it through vacations. It changed ours this last time.
So the next one is vacations. Where, when, how much do you want to save? Ask them, answer them. Some of you may want to do a month at a time. Some of you want to do a quarter, because you're planning out a little bit longer, and you want to make sure that those things are getting down on your calendar. And what you'll do is week in and week out, as you're going over the coffee break, you're just checking in on those. Okay, everything's good. Everything's set up. Maybe you've set the dates, but you haven't really set up the airline tickets yet. Like for us, we know we're going to be traveling come this winter. So we're still too far out to set our plane or get our plane tickets, but we already know it. So it's on the forefront, and it's like, okay, let's make sure that once those dates come, we start looking at those tickets.
We're also talking through budgets around that too, just so that if it is like for our trip in December, we're already talking about like what's that number going to be in terms of how much are we spending, so that shockingly enough, here we are in April, we can actually be saving a certain amount each month to get to December and not feel like, oh crud, we've got this trip, how do we pay for it?
Next one, Amazon Wishlist. This is something that for Elise and I, it's hit or miss. In all honesty, it's a hit or miss. If you can and you want to, set up your own wish list in Amazon. And this is just a great place where you can just add items. And if you're somebody who likes to give gifts or receive gifts, it makes it really easy for your spouse to look in there and just go, oh, I know my wife wants XYZ, and he can pick it up. Or you can look at his and go, oh, that's what he wants. And maybe his birthday's coming up or a special occasion's coming up. And you can just pick it instead of even asking about it. So that's something that we discuss. It's like, hey, are there some items in there? And honestly, for us, it's not a big one, but for others, it is. It's a very tangible way for them to romance their spouse, to show their love and their appreciation to their spouse.
And for us, gifts is not a big thing. And I just want to say, we have on the coffee break, we have Amazon, but if you or your spouse has another store that you absolutely love and you can keep a wish list there,
use it.
Do it. Right? Again, customize this to you.
Household needs, cover them. And hopefully this goes a little quicker. The key for this one is so that there's not these honey-do lists that are forever and ever long. Prioritize these household needs. Maybe for this conversation, it's maybe the top 1 or 2 that needs to get done and taken care of. For us, we still need to get through our garage. It tends to sort of like go in phases. And
we clean it. It needs to be cleaned again.
I just feel like we just need to get through that, and even through some of these areas in our house that have had piles since us getting back. Just clean them up. I mean, it's nothing crazy. We both know we need to do it. Is that rolling? We're going to hit the last question here on the first page, and that's kids' schedule. And honestly, probably takes the most time for our coffee breaks.
We're not going to bore you. Just for us, like I know we've got a lacrosse game tomorrow. We've got, Do
I have that on my calendar?
I hope you have it.
Yeah, I do.
Our
What's
daughter.
next week?
Oh, next week? Oh.
Hold on. I need to sit down with Elisa when it comes to the schedules, because if we don't, it gets a little tough. Are you guys tracking with this? Is this going good? Thumbs up. Give us some feedback here, just so we know. This isn't. This is the way we do it. Grab our coffees, grab our drinks. I drink an iced tea right now. Grab what you got to grab and just go at it. Make it happen. That's the key with this tool. It's not highly romantic. It's not highly like, oh my gosh, we're gonna just like lights out, and it's just, we gotta get through this stuff so we're on par together. Thank you all for sharing. That's awesome. Love it. Okay.
We have games Wednesday and Friday next week.
Next week. What's the next week?
That's the week.
That's this week. Wednesday at what time? The 10th.
They're both 7:00 games.
Okay. So Alex needs to be there at 5:15.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we've got practice.
Are they at home?
Wednesday's at home. Friday is away.
Who are we playing on Wednesday?
Patrick Henry.
Oh.
And then Friday is Scripps. Local high schools. Mom of 3 with young ones. Can we do coffee breaks at home, or do you shy away from that? I think this is probably the biggest thing. Make it work for you, but if you're going to do it at home, and it doesn't always have to be coffee. I mean, there are couples that go to the park and do this. There are couples that will, sit at the beach and do this, maybe over lunch, whatever you guys can do. But the important thing is to be free from as many distractions as possible so that you can make it through.
Yes.
And the other thing too is that as you guys become more skilled in this, keep in mind that maybe the first couple times it feels awkward and you're like, okay, what comes next and what are we talking about? But you'll get into a rhythm.
Totally does. Early on, it may take you longer. For Elisa and I, when we're just doing this on our own, it's 30 minutes. And I remember the earlier ones, it felt like it was just laborious.
Ooh, big word.
Big word. Going big here. It just felt like there was a lot, and there was a lot of emotion and just a lot of brain power. So it felt like it took a little longer, and yet when we do these now, they just flow. Because we just got into that rhythm, and sometimes we'll miss a week and we just pick it right back up, or 2 weeks, and we're just like, okay, let's just get going. At home, I would say be intentional, make sure it happens. And I said earlier in the live that don't get to a point where you're just cuddling and you're just like,
we're not going to do it
now. So just do that. Okay.
How do you do coffee breaks when one spouse works 6 days a week and the other is a stay-at-home spouse? Sundays are church and R&R.
You do it on Sunday, and that's what we've done.
Mm-hmm. There have been seasons.
Yeah, there have been seasons when we are running hard 6 days a week. Sunday we're at church. We do a little rest and relaxation, but we get it in on Sunday. And it sets up our week, and that's typically when we are doing this, is on a Sunday. But yeah, been there. It's about getting through it.
It's about investing in your marriage.
Well, but right. I was just saying, getting through it, so that way you are investing in your marriage and taking that time. And it may be,
splitting nap time, right? If you've got, some of you have got young ones and things like that, where you take that nap time and you say, you know what, and maybe it's every other week, right? Again, build in your schedule.
That could be it. Yeah, I mean, if you could do 2 weeks at a time and just say, hey, it's going to go a little longer each time.
But that gives you the flexibility. If you have to in this season, you can't do a coffee break every week, then really schedule every other week, so that maybe on those Sundays, one Sunday is really heavy on R&R, and the next one we're going to plan, and we're going to plan for 2 weeks, and then you go back and forth. But the most important thing is to use this tool or any tool to say, how are we building our marriage? How are we strengthening the foundation so that there isn't a growing divide or a growing disconnect between the two of us, but rather it's an opportunity for us to say, I mean, in all honesty, I remember being in corporate America, you better have had a really, really good reason for skipping a meeting. Like if my boss was, hey, we have a meeting at Monday at 9, short of being home with the flu, I was in the office Monday at 9, and that's the same kind of intentionality that we want to wrap around marriages.
Yeah.
Let's get to some of these others.
Yeah. So plans with the family, immediate and extended. Hey, Easter's coming up, so we know Easter's going on. That's going to be a big deal. So let's look at that. What does that look like? Discussing that for us, driving somewhere. all of those, So again, you could be doing that for the week ahead, or you could be looking at a month, 2 months, 3 months ahead. Depends on what you want to do and what best fits for you guys. Some of it will be week to week. Others may be months out because it's coming. Christmas, Thanksgiving, when you get to that time of year, talking about it in October may be a better opportunity than talking about it the week before Thanksgiving. So ebb and flow on that part.
Absolutely. There are other things in here about, your family goals. And that's something for the two of you to talk about, what are those family goals? There's things about, your quarterly agenda day. Are you setting aside time just like, I know I'm almost sounding like a broken record when I talk about just like a business, but the fact of the matter is that businesses are very effective at what they do because they are regularly checking in. They're regularly setting aside time to cast vision. They're regularly forecasting what's going to be happening. And the truth is that our marriages are a similar type of relationship. We need to be vision casting. We need to be setting aside time to just check and rest and say, okay, what's going on? What are we doing? Are we where we want to be at this point in time in the year? Do we need to correct? Do we need to add on? And so you'll find some of those. There's other questions about, how are you spending time with the kids, those of you that have children.
Yeah.
And, it's not just what is the kids' schedule, but how are we fostering not just the relationship between husband and wife, but also the relationship between parents and child.
And you can also share wins there. What was a big win that you had with your kid? So often we can see those times when it's tough and forget about awesome experiences that we are having, even if it's day at the park or catching ball, or for us, because ours is 16 and 13, for me personally, like some of those wins for me is just being able to drive with my kids and having some really cool conversations with my younger one, her and I coming up with cool handshakes that we have right now, you know what I mean? So those are fun things that we do. And want to express to one another because it helps jog our memory sometimes, even like when I have felt down on myself for not being around as much as a dad and as a father during some seasons of life when it's just I was working a ton and not able to be home. Elisa would enlighten me of like, oh, but do you remember this evening when you did come home and you just laid on the floor with them and you were just pushing the cars around? That was so important to them. So her even sharing that was very helpful for me to realize like, oh yeah, you know what, I am doing my part. So there's many more that we can talk about. Here's what I want to share with you right now though. If you put a 30-minute timer limit and say 30 minutes has hit, then I would suggest that you just finish up. You're done. You don't need to keep pressing forward. You don't need to complete it. You guys committed to each other for 30 minutes to go over this. Congratulate yourselves for what you completed and call it a win. Because really, at the end of the day, this isn't going to be a 2-hour like, oh my gosh, we got to finish everything. And if we don't finish it, we fail. Nope. We went 30 minutes. We got through what we could get through. Congratulate each other with that. And then the next week when you come back to it, probably the earlier stuff, you're going to be able to breeze through a little quicker. And then you can get to the second part. Or you may want to even just start with that second part the next time.
And that's what I was going to say. If you're looking at your schedule and you don't have enough time or you don't feel you have enough time to go through all the questions, then splitting that up, because you don't want to just be talking about logistics every time the two of you get together.
Yeah.
You really need to get into the personal questions, which is the second half. And you may even opt to alternate one of the logistics questions with one of the personal questions and go back and forth so that this way you're getting both logistics and digging deeper. Again, you're customizing this. For those of you that are just hopping on, we're so excited to have you join us. Tony and I are talking about the coffee break, and we're, partly doing it live and partly answering your questions because we know there are a lot of questions about how to do this and when to do it and that type of thing. There's a comment there that says with
Great
7
win.
kids, it helps us set up dates and one-on-one time for each. Amen.
Boom.
That's
awesome. Why it's there. That is such a great response.
I'm curious because you do have 7 kids. When do you find time to do the coffee break?
Yeah.
Because there have been a lot of questions from other folks about,
Great question.
We've got young kids. And I'm curious because you came right out there and let us know that you've got 7. So, Porterhouse of 3, if you can just share how you logistically find the time and about how long it takes you. I'd love for you to be able to share that with the audience.
Yeah. So we got some more questions here. Hopefully this is, again, use it to best impact your marriage, guys. That's the key.
So is coffee break the same questions every week, or do the questions change? A great question.
You love it.
Because we follow the template, the questions are generally this. It's kind of like having an agenda for your marriage meeting, right? So those are the same. But as we get into some of the personal questions, you're going to see how those answers could change week to week. Great question.
Great question. What's this? Oops, sorry. How can we start it with it not sounding like an interview? My spouse is not a fan of lists of questions. Okay.
Great. And there are a lot of people that are like, okay, what are you talking to me about? Like, what's this going to look like? I actually tell those people to hand the list to their spouse. It's kind of like what we tell people about with Connect, right? If your spouse is the one that's a little bit more reluctant around questions, and Connect, like you did when you first met, is the book of questions that Tony and I wrote in order to be able to help couples communicate better. But literally slide the coffee break across the table and say, you start. Right? Because then she's not being interviewed. She actually gets to be the one to ask the questions. Now, that being said, you both have to answer the questions. Right? It's not just a matter of she gets to ask the questions because she feels more comfortable. But again, it's even looking at some of these. Some of these are not even interview questions. We're asking them back and forth just to kind of give you guys. But, what are we doing for our overnight date? And I know I asked that as a question, but, what are the logistics we need to work out? Yeah. And some of it she may be excited about, like, where are we going for our overnight date this quarter, right? Like, where do I want to go? And you start getting into that dreaming again. Yeah. And so it's looking at how, especially on the logistics side, you can make those a lot of statements, but more specifically, share those with her, so that she gets to actually be the lead on that. Yeah.
Do you do a couples devotional together as part of this? No.
We don't.
Keep stuff simple, folks. I'm telling you. Yeah, I'm talking to too many couples right now where it's like we're trying to put everything in, like, and we got to do this. Oh, and we got to do that. And Elisa and I used to do this, and because we got this, now we're gonna do this, and then and it was just like overload. It was seriously just overload. Like, keep it simple. If you're doing a coffee break, do a coffee break. If you want to do a devotional once a week or twice a week or every night of the week or every morning of the week, do your devotional then, but be in the moment with your spouse for your devotional. So that's something I think we've learned over the years, is like when we're on our walk and talks, it's our walk and talk. It's not a walk and talk and a devotional and we're doing a coffee break it's a walk and talk, and our walk and talks are we're out, we're walking, and we're talking. And in all honesty, sometimes it's silent when we just hear the waves are crashing on the beach. So try to simplify what you're doing instead of trying to put more in. Simplify it. If the devotional isn't right for right now, it's okay. Do your coffee break. Maybe that's what you need to do. Maybe the devotional will come in later. Whatever you need to do, but separate those out. Great question. I'm loving these questions. Doesn't have to be big outings. Sometimes it's just a quick trip to the store or a walk around. Dates. Yep, you got it. You know it. Sure.
If you're intentional about your time, anything can really.
Anything. Here's something. Do you have a problem coming up with answers? Sometimes. Sure do. Sometimes it can be a little tough.
Wait until we get to some of the personal questions.
Yeah.
And with that, what I would say, because I spend a lot of time coaching folks in the one family, and the most common answer that we want to give when we're dealing with things is, I don't know. Right? We can feel really uncomfortable, and then it's like, well, I don't know. I don't know. And while it's true in the moment you may not know the answer, telling your spouse I don't know really becomes
it stops the conversation.
Yeah. And so it can be much more effective and productive in your marriage if you say, you know what, you can even own it. Like, I'm really tempted to say I don't know right now. Can I have a minute to think through that answer?
Yeah.
Right? Or you can take, and I know, some of you that have been listening for a while, you've heard us talk about, those clarifying questions. What is it
What does that mean to you?
What does that mean to you? How do you see that working? It could be, somebody's talking about an overnight date and you're like, oh, I don't know how we're going to do that with the kids. But instead of getting into this place of, you can say, what are you thinking of? Right? How do you see us being able to get away with the kids? That type of thing. I literally was just talking to one of my coaching clients the other day because the wife put the kibosh on a trip. And the husband's like, why would I volunteer? Why would I make that suggestion again? And, as the wife and I were talking through this, I said, hey, what if you just asked him how he envisioned it working? Right? Yeah. So let's get to a couple of these personal questions.
Yeah. So
let's skip the first one because that's just kind of like wins.
I know. I like the second one. How am I doing on a scale of 1 to 10? And this can get brutal, and you got to be willing.
Has.
Yes. So
like the person that asks it,
you gotta just be willing to own it. And if your spouse gives you a 5 or lower, my question is what happened in this past week that you gave me that number?
But what I would say to that is be careful how you ask that question. Because that can come across. I know there was a comment made earlier about being defensive.
Yeah.
That can come across as really defensive.
Yeah.
And so it's what happened this week, right?
It's a dance. It's a dance, you guys. All of us are doing a dance with our spouse, and how Elisa and I may ask these questions, and we may come across short, or we may come across as just like flippant at times and non-emotional. It's how we do our dance. We still love each other more than ever. We still will walk away from a coffee break holding hands, kissing each other. So realize that you're uniquely made, and how you address these questions and move forward with them is a dance that you're doing with your spouse. The key is that we're open, honest, and transparent, and we're willing to be vulnerable with our spouse, because that's where we grow. That's where we stretch. And I can tell you that personally from a guy who didn't do it for the first 11 years of my marriage, how I was stagnant and plateauing, and how as I grew in being willing to take criticism, and not always the best, but as a guy who was willing to take it from my wife, how I grew in all areas of my marriage. So how am I doing on a scale of 1 to 10 this past week?
This is such an interesting, I do have to say, it's a little interesting whenever we do this when we've got an audience.
What?
Because I'm used to us just having like a moment.
Yeah, you want to inflate it.
Right.
Yeah, you want to inflate it.
I told you, I want to just be like,
I want you to just say Tony's a 10 because I'm awesome, right?
But it hasn't been a 10 week.
It hasn't been. I would agree with that 100%.
Okay. This was like a 7 week.
Which I would give you. You're being nice.
Okay, that's probably true. But you know why it's a 7? Truthful. Okay, so it really is a 7. There was like if we had done this on Friday, you guys, he probably would have been a 3. Friday.
No, it would have been Thursday.
Okay, well, Friday's when we had the conversation. So okay. Thursday.
Right. Okay.
Right. This is real life. Right, because on Thursday, when Tony blew up while we were on vacation, and he's using always and nevers and all of the things that we tell you guys don't do because they're not effective.
Which still happens.
Tony did all of them.
And it happened.
In a span of about 32 minutes. And the kids weren't happy on vacation. I had to call a family meeting on vacation and tell everybody they weren't allowed to talk so that I could just get the flow going again. And so that was like a 3. But then Friday, we left the kids in the apartment. Our kids are old enough to do that when we're on vacation. And we were walking around, we were exploring Boston. It was amazing. And then we had breakfast. And you allowed me to just share what was going on and to give you a different perspective. And you didn't get defensive. Right. And you sat there and you just calmly took in the information, which if you've listened to any of the early shows, you know that that's been a growth process over the last 9 years. And so that really shifted the whole week. But Thursday you were probably a 3. Yeah. It's a good thing we didn't do a coffee break on Thursday.
I'd agree. That's awesome. Yeah. I love it. So that's how that rolls. But
then I have to ask the question too.
Right, you got to go back and forth. I don't know if we're going back and forth today.
Well, we might as well, just so that we can see both halves.
All right.
So how am I doing on a scale of 1 to 10?
And I was going to say probably like a 6, 7.
Yeah.
There's
been disconnect.
Yeah, there's just been some disconnect from us coming back home. the trip was great, and the 7 part, I would say that there's been that tough love, and just, going, hey, enough, and calling that family meeting, I thought was just boss, which we all just sort of sat there and looked at each other and were laughing.
I so wish we'd had that on video.
We were laughing, like me and the kids, and it was just like, oh my gosh, here goes mom. She's gonna rip into us, so let's go. But the 6, that 6, I'd say, like, is, yes, there's that disconnect since being home. Just like we're running it, and we have been tearing through a bunch of stuff. Last night we had lacrosse games, so that was nice to sort of connect. I'm hoping today we'll be able to do a little walk and talk once the younger one gets home and everybody's home, and we just have some time together.
We have a miraculous night where everybody's home.
So thank you so much. It just says we love you guys.
We love you too. Yay.
So
I just want to say, for those of you that are just joining us, we're doing a live coffee break. You can get your own copy at One Extraordinary Marriage.
Your own coffee. You can get your own coffee at Coffee. Oh, I thought you said coffee. Like, we're going to start serving you guys coffee now.
One Extraordinary Marriage coffee.
Like, so that's that one. Grab your coffee break, guys. Honestly, just looking at these questions just makes you go, okay, what are we doing? Like, how important is my marriage? And if you prioritize your marriage like right after God, then you need to be doing this. And Elisa even said it earlier. It's like, maybe it's not every week because of where you're at. Maybe it's every other week. Maybe, it's a once a month thing right now just because of where you're at. Maybe it's, you're doing once a month, but you're also throwing in some phone calls, where you're sort of going through this because of time constraints, and you can catch your husband because he's driving home and you're at home, and you can do it during that time period when the kids is asleep or the kids are gone or whatever it may be. The key is we got to be doing it, because if we want to be extraordinary, we got to do what other couples aren't doing and willing to do. And I know you guys in the One Family are those types of people. You don't tune in, you don't come here and sit and listen to Elisa and I because you don't want an extraordinary marriage. So doing this may feel awkward. It will feel awkward. And I just want to encourage you to keep going through it. And if you have a spouse who's reluctant, then say, hey, you know what? Set that timer. Just be like, we're only going to do 20 minutes. Let's do it. Let's try. Let's practice. Let's do something that, that's going to help us hopefully unlock some of these areas in our marriage, and stay true to that time. Stay true to that time. Like when I'm in a business meeting and I say I have 30 minutes, we better be done at 30 minutes unless I say it's okay to continue moving forward.
Or you've asked.
Or I've asked.
There's been a conversation.
There's a conversation. So, 30 minutes is done. We only got through that first half. Boom, let's go. Let's move. I saw a question come up.
Yeah, it says, how do I convince my spouse to listen to this kind of podcast? She always says that she's too busy. On a side note, you guys are awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting us, for sharing the awesome part. We've seen that pop up. Not just on this, but I was at prayer this morning, and one of the wives came up to me talking about her husband. Same question. It's shown up in Summit Partner, in the Position of the Month Club for the Summit Partner.
Yeah.
Like this right here. How do I get my spouse to listen? You start being you, and you start showing and living what you've learned from the show, and over time you're going to create a shift in the environment in your home. And there may be times, one of the things I always tell people is don't start with an episode that's going to feel like she's getting a finger pointed at her and saying, you need to work on this. So let's say you want to talk about scheduling sex with your wife, because, Tony says at the beginning of every show, scheduling sex takes the guesswork out of getting stuff. Don't start with the intimacy lifestyle shows.
Yeah.
Maybe start with something funny, like what color is your underwear?
Underwear, yeah.
Right? Like, hey, I heard this crazy podcast, and a lot of times people will say, yeah, my spouse was just like, yeah, I heard this show, and it's not anything that pertains to a challenge that the two of you are having. Oh. Why? Because then it's a softer approach. It's not this like, oh, you've got this problem, and we need to fix you, because I can promise you, if your spouse feels like the show that you picked is one that they need to fix, or you're pointing something out at them, they will be a long time in listening to avoiding the show. They won't want to listen. They'll think that you're trying to fix them, and nobody wants to be fixed.
Yeah, or pick up resources. Pick up resources and just do it. Do a coffee break. Pick up Connect like you did. Ask and answer a question during a date night. Maybe pick up Strip Down as a devotional and do that together. Maybe, some people are just not audio listeners either. And you got to just go, okay, you know what? My spouse isn't an auditory learner. And so that may be it as well. So where can you bring in other opportunities to share? Right. And it may come to that point where it's like, got it. Okay. That now it's clicking. I remember when we were in North Carolina at Clearview Church doing the one conference in Henderson, and how Pastor Shaw's wife Nicole introduced him to the show, and how he was like, I'm not listening to some show on marriage. Like,
I'm a pastor. I deal with people all day.
Like, I'm not listening to that. And they were on a drive, and she said, hey, you know what? Let's listen to this one show. If you don't even like it after the first 10, 15 minutes, we'll listen to something else. And he got hooked just like that, and was so excited to listen to it and listen to it on their way back from this trip as well. So that's a way to also introduce it. I do want to get to another question, which I think is the most important question on the take a break, a coffee break, is there enough gourmet time? And when we're talking about gourmet time, we're talking about sexual intimacy, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to get real about it, right? Because here I want to show you marriage.
This is the number one question for you.
For me? Heck yeah.
Okay.
All day long. Like, okay. I want to gauge us and where we're at, and knowing that to me is important.
Okay.
So
good deal. I know they're probably all laughing at you.
Is there enough gourmet time for the last week?
So
look at that face.
No,
man,
there hasn't been.
There's a no to that answer.
Right.
Which is my answer as well.
Right. Because we did do the vacation planner before we left, and now I was just going to say, as a resource, that may be a great way to introduce somebody to One Extraordinary Marriage, because there's not a whole lot of emotional energy around that. It's one page, and you can do it if you've got a trip coming up. So just FYI, oneextraordinarymarriage.com/vacation planner. But we had done that prior to going, and
hopefully that works. And if it doesn't, let me know.
We had said, I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
I think it is.
We had said we were aiming to have sex once
on our trip. Yep.
And that did not happen. That was a 0. And so I knew L0. And we didn't really talk about it.
No.
We didn't talk about it, and it was late nights and jet lag, and just the dynamic with the kids in the apartment and the location of where the kids
were running. We actually, Elisa and I, in the 3 days that we were in Boston, we walked like 22 miles. So we were pretty fried. And I think most nights we got to bed and we were fried.
It was like midnight.
Yeah. It was midnight, and then we were waking up early the next morning just to do stuff and meet people or what have you. And a little bit of jet lag going on. So we did it. And so that's where this comes up, and we talk about it and we discuss it. Referring to the sexual intimacy, was there a good, no. And even...
Well, and then it was a double whammy, because we come back from vacation, we have one day, and I get my period.
Yeah.
Right? So we had pre-trip, all of that getting ready, and we're gone for 4 days, 5, whatever it was. Come back, we've got one night, we took advantage of the one night.
Yeah, it wasn't great, but it was, we took advantage of it.
Okay, it wasn't great for you. I actually thought it was pretty good. this is where you get into different opinion.
I mean, it was... it was late and I was tired.
Yes.
And so in that respect, I felt like it was just let's check the box. It was one of those check the box nights.
Right.
Yes, it was good.
Check my box.
Right, but at the same time, it's just sort of like, all right.
And so you got all these sequences, right? And
again, just being truthful with you guys. I mean,
but I do want to point out one thing there.
What?
It's also learning how to not be defensive. Right? Because, Tony could have made that comment like, well, wasn't that great to me? And I could have been like, are you kidding me? Like, seriously, that's your reaction? Like, I totally enjoyed myself. What the heck is wrong with you? I mean, I could have done that. Mm-hmm. Years past, that version of Elisa might have come out.
But again, communication, and you're talking. And it's going to come out.
That's not to say that we don't have defensive moments.
Again, we're in a dance together, so let's Let's keep the lines open. Hey, if you need a chance to address that, or you need to just take a step back and go, whoa, wait a minute. If I can recall, it was really good to me. And again, I didn't ask Elisa how good it was for her. I just, we finished up and we fell asleep. It was a long day, and so I didn't ask her if she enjoyed it or not. Obviously she did. So had I known that, I think I would have gone out of my head and just been like, cool, it was good for her. It was okay for me, but it was all right.
Yeah.
So, all right. Y'all are hilarious. Thank you. Appreciate
sometimes we
that.
crack ourselves up too.
Sometimes you got to just let it roll. So,
check my box.
Anymore. We've gotten a little bit longer than we expected, which usually happens on these IG lives.
Yeah, we have a hard time.
We have a hard time just making these short because we just love your guys' interaction. And I'm going to just tell you, we love your interaction. I mean, you guys are honestly amazing, and you do not know how often we talk about the One Family. Mm-hmm. You guys are talked about often, your stories, your hugs, what happens in your lives, truly we share, because it's not about us, man. It's about you guys and what you're doing to get through some of the stuff that is holding you back, and working on it. And if I don't know if you guys remember last year, those of you who listened to last year's show, our hashtag is what can I do?
Like which show?
Yeah,
we did
just the show overall.
Yeah.
What can I do? And you guys are going after it, and you're just taking charge, and you're just going like, we're not going to live like this anymore. Mm-hmm. We're not. We're going to take on a 7 days of sex challenge. We're going to start the intimacy lifestyle. We're going to do the coffee break. We're going to listen to the podcast and talk about. We're going to do walk and talks. It's just, you guys don't understand how much you mean to us. And I mean, I get teary-eyed.
He's totally emotional.
I'm sorry.
No need to apologize. We've got some great hugs coming in here. Guys, the only reason I'm looking down is because our youngest is coming back from a field trip, so I'm just keeping track of where she is, so that
and the other one's coming back from driving school.
Yeah, so that's that. When I'm looking down, that's why it says it helps me to be. We tried the 7 days sex challenge. We got 2 days down, but we're trying. Like you said, we get busy and we try at the end of the day. Yeah, if you can find other times a day, morning is good.
Schedule. Hey, I'm going to tell you guys, if you're doing a coffee break, and on that coffee break you're talking about doing, and you're scheduling up a 7 days of sex challenge, like that's something that's coming up. Look at your calendar and schedule it out, and in that time frame, make sure that you're going, hey, we have time in the morning, we have time in the afternoon, we have time in the evening. Each day, it's going to be a little planned out, but the spontaneity is still there. You can still figure out, like, are you having the diffuser, the lights, the lubes, the vibrator, whatever fun stuff you're doing in the shower, in the bed, different positions. So don't let time scheduling stuff mess with your mind and going, oh, well, we can't be spontaneous. You can. And if you want new positions, join Position of the Month Club. All right.
Absolutely.
Right here. Yep. I just joined 2 weeks ago, listened to 10 podcasts already. Feeling so blessed. Awesome. My husband has listened to, which is great to have content. We can listen together. Great. Awesome. Love it. Welcome to the One Family. We're honored.
A lot of spouses do that.
Yes.
They use the show almost like the TV show that everybody watches, and they're using that and then launching that for their discussions. So
we're trying to move past an affair. Listening to you guys gives me hope. Many have. You can do it. Be intentional. Be open. Be vulnerable. There's nothing more that can grow your marriage than being vulnerable on both ends. It's proven. Vulnerability increases the connection between people. Mm-hmm. And so to share those feelings, and if you need somebody going through an affair, having come out of an affair, get help. Get somebody there to be in between you guys and help you with those tools as well. Don't mess with that if you need it. Thank you. I've held on to being my spouse for 22 years, sex affair addiction because of both of you. Oh, wait. I've held on to being. Nice. Love it.
I think the 16-year-old got home and the door's not
open. The door's locked. All right, you want to go running and open it? And we'll just keep it just a little bit more. I just want to read some of these. Yes, I tried to give my husband his morning quickie because that I know is important. Right on. hey, sometimes that's, if you guys are good with it, awesome. Lately, we haven't been able to because she gets up at like 5 a.m. And I'm like, honey, 5 a.m. is a little too early for me right now. Such a good reminder to keep the line of communication. My husband has been working 14-hour days lately, and I am a stay-at-home mom trying to stay connected and not push it off until we are tired. Yes. Gosh, oh my gosh, you guys are just blowing. Hold on. What I would say with 14-hour days, if you connect on the phone, if you can talk to him, maybe while he's driving home, if he has the capacity, short bits. Lisa and I, for us, those are for me personally, very important when I'm out, having done stuff, meetings, in between, driving, whatever. Just having that 5, 10, 15-minute conversation with her helps me a ton. So when I walk in the door, I'm not just hit with a bunch of stuff. Just me. Thank you for helping us get to us after baby. Awesome. Yes, babies can cause that sort of stuff. Not married yet, but preparing for it, and so grateful for you. Love it when those who are dating or engaged are learning. We share a lot with our young adults at our church. And we typically say, hey, just stay away from the sexual intimacy stuff right now, but really dive into all the other stuff because you're going to have to be talking about it too. So sometimes that helps them stay focused on what's important, not just the physical. I'm not too sure what that first word is. I was the culprit of my affair 10 years ago. I cheated with 4 different men. My husband and I are now the happiest we have ever been. The moving past was the hardest. Yes. Praise God. So good. Oh, okay. But the transparency was the most important part. Yes, the vulnerability. So good. Thank you, lovelies. It is early days for us. Only a month. Since it ended, I'm trying to figure out how to trust again and forgive. It's going to take some time. Mm-hmm. It's going to take some time.
I would just hop in on this. Get help.
Yeah, I shared that, but perfect. Yeah, definitely. And coming back to the coffee break though, it again is a time where you can start going through those personal questions and opening up and being vulnerable. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe for you guys, the overview, the scheduling part isn't as important, but maybe it's just those personal questions and opening up. But again, getting help. So, wow, we've gone probably for about an hour.
Pretty close.
All right, you guys, you're awesome. This honestly was supposed to be 20 minutes with you guys. But what are you going to do?
We love you. And this is, just like when we do our conferences and we get to literally...
The coffee break at conference, though, is 20 minutes because we're on the timer and we're moving.
Our personal assistant
and our PA, Myra, who we love, is on us, letting us know how much time is left. We may have to get Myra here to make sure we stick on break. Hi from Tennessee. Love you guys. Yes.
Tennessee, were you at the conference? I know we had a
coffee break. That's what we've been talking about. Go back and listen to this when it's up on the story. You can also pick up your coffee break if you haven't picked it up yet. oneextraordinarymarriage.com/coffee break. Mm-hmm. We needed this. Thank you. Great.
Oh, good.
Come back, listen. If you guys have more questions on us, DM us. For those of you who are just stuck right now, maybe you're just like, we can't get through this. Our communication is really, every time we get into this, we do get into a defensive battle. We're shutting down. We're not doing this. Consider coaching with Elisa here. She does this with so many clients and helps them break through and have the breakthrough they need. So you can go to oneextraordinarymarriage.com/coaching, learn more about it. But don't hesitate. Sometimes it's 1, 2, 3 sessions and you can just have that breakthrough that you need. It's just a little tweak here and there. It's fine-tuning the engine. Right? It's fine-tuning the dance you're doing. You have you have your dance partner, but you need the teacher there to go, oh, you know what? That step right there needs to be 2 seconds sooner than what you're doing it so you won't step on their toes.
So when I asked Tennessee if they were in...
No, I wish.
No, I wish. Well, we're having conversations with Clearview to be going back there.
Yep.
So once we get that date finalized, we did have some people fly in from Tennessee. And then there was another question, was the conference videoed? It was not.
No.
The one conference, you got to be there live and in person.
We're still working on that. We're growing those. So eventually we will have a a video version available for sale once we get to that production level that we want. But for right now, it's get to these. We're hopefully going to be announcing the next two. So it'll be the fall of this year and then early 2020 here within hopefully the next month or so.
Yes, that's our plan, so that you all can make plans, so that we can love on you in person, so that we can have that connection, we can spend all day with you and just have an amazing time. So we love you guys. Thank you for being a part of our life.
Yep. Enjoy this. Take care.